Awareness against human trafficking. KTN News Investigations Unit has been following the trail of Karamajong girls who were trafficked from Uganda to Kenya. And as our Crimes and Investigations editor Hussein Mohammed now reports, human beings are bought like merchandise on sale and trafficked to Nairobi here in Kenya. This is Inside Source, the Karamajong Servants.
Uganda to Kenya, it has become a lucrative business.
People are prepared to do anything.
Kenyans don't see this as a problem.
Human beings being auctioned like goods on sale.
We're being paid between 2,000 and 5,000.
The claws of poverty have been breathing life to domestic servitude. Physical abuse, children paying the ultimate price of human trafficking.
This
is the last destination of the Karamajong girls who were trafficked from their home country.
The KTN News investigative team went undercover to explore the underworld of child trafficking of the Karamajong girls from eastern Uganda into Kenya. I am Hussein Mohammed, and this is Inside Source. Most Kenyan homes have a housemaid or a house help, as they are commonly known. Here in Nairobi's Eastleigh area, though quite curiously, the majority of these house helps come from one region, Karamajang in northeastern Uganda. The KTN News Crimes and Investigations Desk has sought to put the spotlight on the working condition of some of the girls are subjected to. And there are not many nice stories. In Majengo, Pumwani, Eastleigh and Shauri Moyo, you will find pockets of these girls from Karamajang. They're highly sought after, especially by Somali households. And as it turns out, most of them are very young, aged between 10 and 18 years.
There's both a mixture of the Somalis who are Kenyans and the Somalis who are not Kenyans. And therefore, the Somalis who are not Kenyans find it much easier to work and engage with these girls from the Karamajong region because it's cheap labor, and secondly, they may not be a threat to the presence of their illegal residents in Nairobi.
They usually come in beats. Like you might find that there are like 5 and 10 coming in from Uganda, but they are supplied to different households. And these households, majorly, they are in Eastleigh.
The journey to economic survival in East Africa is closely associated with trafficking of young girls who are trafficked from their home country to come and work in Kenyan households. For over 6 months, KTN News Investigative Unit has been following up on the lives of the Karamajong girls from northern Uganda to here in Kenya, where they are trafficked. Our inside source has informed us that this is the meeting point of the traffickers and the girls. We have come early to set camp and witness what many say is the height of child trafficking here in Kenya.
Dressed in customary clothes, they start arriving at Kamkunji grounds in Nairobi, Eastlands area. Most of the girls visibly tired. They make their way into the city in the sun in search for a better life. Some of them are taken to work in households in neighboring Eastleigh Estate. The rest are left here to wait, vulnerable and desperate. We filmed this man trying to get one of the girls. He targets the youngest in the group. He buys the girls ice cream in an effort to lure them. But this time, they rather brave the sweltering heat. Every Sunday, they come here to try to find their luck. They do this week, after week, trying to find work and ease the burden on their families back home in Uganda. As this is happening, police are also on the prowl. They're here to try and bust some of the said traffickers. And some of the girls get caught in the middle as they try to get away from the law enforcement. They are not ready to go back home. When the dust settles, 120 girls are recorded to have been smuggled, most of them underage.
They are young girls. They're lonely. They want to go back home. But at the same time, what they're going back to is horrendous poverty. There's no schooling for these girls. They don't have a future. They would like to be in 2 camps to have contact with their relatives, but that's not possible. So they carry on doing what they're called to be doing, housekeeping.
Find that they were being paid between 2,000 and 5,000. So you find that it wasn't much money, as in you would say that it is much money. Although they're given accommodation, they're given food. So you find that to them, that was better life than what is in their country.
We are building capacity. We are investing more in training our officers. We also working very closly with other agencies to ensure that we try to get more information as possible.
Them do not want to go back to their country because they're afraid when they go back there, they will still land back to the hands of the criminals who organize for their trafficking to the country.
Among them is young Ashia Mary.
Kenya nilikuja kufanya kazi. Nilikuja kufanya kazi bile yani atuko kwa hali yani niko na hali mbaya. Unaona? Sasa mimi huko kwetu nilikosa pesa kwenda shule. Sasa nikakuja huku Kenya kujitafutia yani maisha. Sasa nimesahau masomo. Unaona? Sasa nimekuja tu kujifanyia kazi, kusaidia mamangu na watoto ya babangu.
Karamoja in northeastern Uganda. This is where it all begins. At a Rapai market in Soroti, human beings are part of the merchandise on sale. A reporter from our Ugandan partners, NBS, goes undercover and poses as a buyer. Young girls between 8 and 18 years are on display, literally, and after bargaining, they price with their mother.
Let's give them this when we get change. So we're taking this one?
Yeah.
How much Canada?
It's 800.
Okay.
But you don't have the change now.
And after bargaining their price with her mother, they agree. Incredibly, he buys 2 girls aged 11 and 14 for a mere 50,000 Uganda shillings, an equivalent of 1,450 Kenya shillings. He walks away with the girls. The deal is done.
My mind froze for a second. At first I thought it's not real, but as I rolled out money to give to the mother, and the mother was accepting, and her response was that I should proceed on and take the girls, it was disturbing in the mind, because this is the same market that has animals like goats, and the price of a goat would be 5 times more than the price of a human being. And that alone just made my mind froze, that a human being can be sold at a cost of just 50,000 shillings, which is approximately $13, and I could not believe it.
The treacherous journey to try and get to Nairobi begins. The girls are loaded into buses. Next destination, Kampala, Uganda.
Accepted to be bought, and they were handed to me. I took them to the police station of the area and reported the case and said, this is what is happening in the market, and this is the contact of the person who led me to the mother of these kids, and therefore they should be traced and reunited. So I left the matter and the case at the police.
At this point, they are not aware of what awaits them. In the Ugandan capital, Kampala, the girls are turned into beggars in the streets. In 2019, Kampala passed a law banning giving money or food to children living on the streets in a bid to stop exploitation and sexual abuse against children.
4 months lockdown, over 50 children were trafficked in Uganda, and that's how bad it is. Just imagine, during the lockdown there was restriction of movement. Just imagine when there is no lockdown, private cars have been late to operate, and also public transport has now been opened up, so which means the situation is now worse. The demand for these girls could have gone high, and more than hundreds and hundreds, and now I think being trafficked, that's how bad it is.
This in effect means that the most likely destination for most of these girls is Nairobi.
Look at our country. We would say that it is too much. It is too much, because you find there's a lot, or there are so many girls that are being recruited, like every month.
If you know of people who are being offered these kind of opportunities, report that. No person should be in a position where they are enslaved for whatever reason. Not for cultural practices, not for money, not for the good of anybody else. At the very heart of fundamental freedoms and human rights is the notion of freedom, human dignity that should be respected.
Connection from the border of Kenya and Uganda, where certain Somali business people are situated, and that's where the first movement from the Karamajong region, that's where they first get delivered to, where they kind of stay for a period of time as they do some petty jobs and as their transportation is organized.
Nilikuwa Karamajong, nikakuja nikaingia Kampala, nilikuwa nafanya Kampala kazi. Asa kufanya kazi Kampala, ndio nikapata mdosi yangu akanileta Nairobi.
From Kampala in Uganda to Nairobi here in Kenya, this is the last destination of the Karamajong girls who were trafficked from their home country. Young girls from the age of 8 years come here looking for better life and greener pastures, but unknown to them, they're exposed to vulnerable conditions and sexual exploitation.
The scare of the coronavirus global pandemic is something the girls now have to manage. They have no choice. The exploiting masters have placed them strategically at the heart of Eastleigh here in Nairobi, and there are reports of sexual exploitation. 17-year-old Lillian Achea is among the youngest in the group.
Hapo hata sikujua iko hivi, nilikuwa nafikiri Kajili alikuwa anasema hapa raha mwenye iko hapo inashinda mwenye iko Uganda. Sasa sipia tukabali. Nilikuwa anasema ati Nairobi hakuna matope, hakuna uchafu, hakuna kitu takataka. Tunatembea tu juu ya ghorofa, hakuna barabara ya chini. Natembea tu juu ya ghorofa. Sipia tukabali. Tukapanda gari kufika kwa hivi.
She has been forced to beg and struggle in a foreign country, things here are no different from the situations he was trying to run away from back home. A number of the girls have been impregnated and left to suffer on the cold streets. The life they once dreamed of now masked by suffering in Nairobi.
8-year-olds, yeah, it's rampant, very, very rampant all over Kenya. But Kenyans don't see this as a problem. They see it as a help to the family and to the child. But for the child, it's exploitation and sheer deprivation.
I can report to you that working closely with the other agencies and also working also very closely with the Ugandan government, we were able to now be here. The key Ugandan trafficker, who was the key guy who was involved in bringing these girls from Uganda, and we did deport him back to Uganda.
According to the United States Trafficking in Persons Report 2020, the Kenyan government reported 853 victims of human trafficking, 275 among them girls, and 207 being boys. This is a sharp increase from the 2019 report, where 400 victims were reported to have been rescued.
The most important thing is the issue of poverty. That poverty leads the people to, everybody loves his own house, his own home, his own birthplace. Human nature is this. But what obliges him to migrate from his birthplace is either poverty or some kind of conflict, or that's the things that force him from his village. Africans are highly attached to their own village and they don't want to leave their own village. That's true.
New Vision daily newspaper in Uganda, dated 1st December 2019, reported that some of the trafficked girls ended up in the hands of Al-Shabaab militants in Somalia.
Very, very difficult crime or criminal activity to prove unless you can prove all those elements which are normally very technical, which makes it difficult for organized crime and a matter such as trafficking in persons, especially in East Africa, is that crime is very often committed in many jurisdictions. The recruitment would, for instance, as you alluded, take place in Uganda. A person would be moved through Kenya, ultimately end up in one of the Middle Eastern countries to work or forcefully be deployed in domestic servitude.
Human trafficking seemingly moving away from the dark alleys in the far corners of the earth. It now happens around the world every day. A lot of it normalized. It is considered as modern-day slavery. The victims don't look like slaves and will most likely be recognized in the kitchens, shops, and cleaning companies where they are recruited to work for low pay. Human trafficking, experts say, is caused by many complex and interconnected reasons. Poverty alone does not necessarily create vulnerability to trafficking, but when combined with other factors such as lack of access to education or jobs, family disruption, or dysfunction, the risk of being trafficked goes up.
What we've seen in Kenya, for example, a lot of the arrests that have been done have targeted a disruption of people being smuggled, especially from Ethiopia down to South Africa. And a lot of people who have been arrested are the victims themselves. And what that results into is just disruption. It does not really go down to the problem itself. Who are the smugglers and who are some of the people involved in organized crime, because this is a form of organized crime.
The people who are living in the camps in this region. So we have a challenge, really. That challenge is not only social challenge, it's becoming political challenge. Why the people are migrating from Ethiopia to somewhere in Yemen? Why the people are crossing to Saudi Arabia and dying in the waters? So these are the issues that should be answered politically, but we are working upon that. We are working with international organizations, with partners, at least to minimize the problem. But this cause should be solved politically, co-working with member states, and we have a lot of plans to do so also.
When trafficking comes in and is criminalized, for example, that's where the danger comes in. And here, of course, the question of working together as a region by doing these countering violence extremism programs together, by doing conflict early warning and early response, early warning processes together, by having networks of intelligence systems together, by operationalizing our mutual legal assistance programs then we'll be able to manage. And I can assure you, bits and pieces of those have been commenced, they are up and running. There's much more improvement.
For now, the Karamajong girls will keep living in misery in Kenya. The promise of a better life here remaining a mirage. It is a story familiar here in Kenya. The story of Kenyans who have left home for the Middle East to look for work, only to find misery and cruelty. The Karamajong appear worse off here than they were left at home. Who will come to their rescue? Who will deconstruct the human trafficking rings of East Africa? Hussein Mohammed, KTN News, for the Inside Source.